elimination of roles or jobs would be likely in the process kind of space, perhaps, right?
Hopefully we don't get cancelled for this.
Hey everyone, what's up? Welcome to Offscript, part of the Wild and Wise podcast, a space where we invite creative business minds to come together to have conversations about the future. How do we stay ahead in a fast-changing world? Enjoying this podcast? Hit the like and subscribe button so that we can continue bringing you great content.
It's 2026, the first episode of this year.
Yes!
It's 2026 and the machines still haven't taken over. We still have free will, which brings us a nice segue to the topic about AI. So we've been talking about AI on and off in our past couple episodes, and I feel like today maybe it's time we kind of just address the topic head on, which is the topic of AI. When we think about news events, the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, used the infamous George Bush line, AI could become a weapon of mass destruction of jobs. And there'll be sort of mass unemployment. And obviously there's a worry about this in the UK. Elon, everyone's favorite antagonistic, but profoundly, profoundly interesting person, talked about, the advancement of AI robotics and how that will one day make work as we know it traditionally obsolete or unnecessary. And that it will, in the next, 10, 20 years, work will become quote unquote optional, so more like a hobby than a necessity. So obviously that's another take. And then closer to home, you've seen news about like unemployment, especially with fresh graduates. And there's an implied correlation to more companies adopting AI and henceforth not requiring so as much entry-level jobs and warm bodies to do the work that they typically would. And then there's also like Singapore now talking about the new second language, which is being AI bilingual, right? So the need or the initiative to roll out programs to help Singaporeans become more AI fluent in both their, more professional domain, right? So I think these are kind of interesting events, news, talking points that sort of make this discussion kind of pertinent as well. I guess the question is, what does it actually reveal about us as individuals, right?
So how can AI help us in this situation?
AI can help me reflect on the parent that I am turning into that I don't want to be.
What was the latest question you have asked AI about parenting? Have you guys done that?
I haven't asked it questions, but I told you before, I've turned AI on my personal journal. So I try to journal every day.
Yeah.
It doesn't always happen, but I try to journal frequently, and then I put it on Notion.
Yeah.
And then I run AI on my Notion, and I basically ask, what can you tell me about myself that you think I don't know about myself? And it just comes up with quite scary stuff. And some parts of it is parenting because I write about encounters with my kids. So I don't really ask it. But I also feel like this kind of truths that are surfaced when you don't intentionally ask are actually even much more appalling.
It's scary.
You're not expecting.
It's scary when you write something like that, and I got done it before. So not dream but similar, and then they replied. I feel like this part cuts deeper than you meant it to.
Yes.
Like whoa.
They know exactly the words too. Yeah. Or this is the part that you are not admitting to yourself, or you're not saying it out loud.
Yeah.
Or you're already thinking this, but then
exactly
then you're like, wow, I feel really exposed.
Yeah. So it's a good mirror.
The algorithm does quite scary things because it knows so much about you. You guys remember, I think a couple years ago, they were talking about the AI algorithm for TikTok, the For You page. I think there was this news about this person, and I'll say person because I'm unclear on the pronouns, but who found out she was gay before she knew it because the algorithm picked up on it.
Yeah, quite scary, yeah.
It's about what AI reveals to us about ourselves.
There's this story about how a kid or teenager talking to AI, and somehow he went towards the direction of the dark side, like things like that. And it was going towards that direction.
Yeah.
And it's a bit scary when you have young kids who are uncertain about themselves, about their feelings and emotions, and then just using AI to have that conversation.
Yeah.
And then it just gives you all these answers that could really freak somebody out.
They feel like it's a safe space because it's not another person, but then technically taking direction from this person, right? So it's like you feel like you can confide in it, but it's not exactly giving you the best advice or the right advice.
Yeah.
We're going into a very dark space, right? Everyone's talking about AI, but almost conversations fall into sort of like two distinct tropes, right? One is like what I call fear porn, which is AI will take your job, humans will become irrelevant, or the more extreme singularity. And what does this mean for like creative professionals or people who are creators? There's also the other extreme, which you see a lot on professional social platforms, such as like use these 7 prompts to 10 times your output, right? Or use AI to instantly write and do all these things for you. So maybe as a start to this question, what is an AI take that you are kind of very tired hearing about? Maybe from a creator standpoint,
So
right?
I'll be honest, I don't think about AI a lot. Like that's the first thing I would say. Like, that this everywhere you go online, every conversation you enter, you always hear these 2 alphabets, right? AI constantly. But for me personally, I remain very focused on the value that I bring in my work or in the things that I do with my family or on a professional front. So the reality is, I don't think about AI a lot. Good or bad, I don't know. Right? So I think I wrote recently about me tripling down on the human, right? That was something that I was thinking about a lot this year also. But that's it. The way I approach AI at the moment is still, I wouldn't say I'm a very deep user of it. Like I don't have my life integrated with AI from every facet to a point that it's actually like a robot running my life, right? And it's not yet, at least. Will I get there? Maybe. I don't know. But for now,
get there willingly, or will you be forced to get there?
Don't know. Yeah, so good question, right? So actually, I'm not so sure. But at the moment, a lot of the work that I do is just asking for facts, asking for information. It just gives it to you in a faster way versus like Google maybe. But it's all integrated now anyway, right? So it's all coming through. I use it for brainstorming. I use it for research work, and just some refinement. But after a while, I always feel that it sounds very bland. It just comes out very similar. It's constantly similar. Then I'll get really sick of it. And I'm like, okay, I need to put this aside. And then I just start being that creator, put on that creator hat again. And then start distilling like what I was trying to get to. So that's my thought process, I think, from a life perspective and maybe from a workflow perspective. Very simplistic at the moment, right? Organizations are talking about it, but I also feel organizations may be wrong. I like that too. Just talk, but then still kind of figuring out as they go, right? Now, you guys are deeper in that because that's in your space also. But yeah, it's a great tool. Musicians are using. I'm sure musicians are using it already. Tools like Sono and all that are writing, music. So that impacts the creator outcome maybe, but the process should always include technology. I always feel I'm a believer of technology, right? The question is, where does your personal value add kick in to make it very uniquely you as human, I suppose.
As a creator yourself, what is one thing you're very tired about hearing about AI with regards to creators?
One thing I'm very tired of hearing about for AI, good question. Okay, so AI to me, it's very soulless, right? So that's the thing. It's too perfect. I don't have an answer actually. So I don't have an answer about creators or myself thinking I'm so sick of it. But the word I would say is the outcome of it is just very bland. Yeah, I think somehow I feel that there's always more that we can bring to the table beyond what was given to us from this AI output, right? Yes, we can refine it through prompts, blah, blah, blah. But the question is then, what is that special sauce? What's that special thing that you can bring that can really connect with people? It's emotions, it's feelings, it's things that someone can really feel, right? So I think that's the way I look at it at the moment. But good question. So what do you all think? I don't know. What do you all think about? What are you all sick of hearing?
I don't think I'm sick of it. I think it's too new to be almost sick of it yet because it's so new. At the same time, I don't think it's shiny anymore. You almost use it every day. I think people are starting to use it at work, at life, in your personal stuff. It permeates everywhere because there's also AI that is you are more intentional about, like ChatGPT, for example. And then there's stuff that's behind the scenes, like what you say, like the algorithms of Instagram and all that, right? There's AI solution for everything. I guess if there was a misconception, both actually for corporates as well as individuals, that I would correct. I think that's it. But then again, I think it's so early days. I always equate where we are today on AI with where we are with phones back in the day, I personally do think we're still in like the Motorola Arturo days. We're not even in the Nokia
exposing
days.
our age. You're exposing our age here.
Yeah, we're not even in the Nokia
Agree.
age or the iPhone days. It's still so early in the process. But at the same time, you're right. Like if we are already concerned about AI and what we'll do or the value and whatever not, then what happens down the road and what do we do now with it?
In my view, like I say, yes and no. It's because I'm sick of hearing about the same things that people are saying about it. And it goes on both sides, right? Then you have one side where it talks about what AI can do, the superpower that it is. And then there's this other side where, AI can't touch this. It can't even do this.
Yeah.
So it's like the other part of this as a sort of a self-defense, self-preservation.
Absolutely.
Like, you see this a lot with like creative work and stuff like that, which is, there's no right or wrong. It's really like a perspective of someone coming like, there's this new piece of technology. And then they try to abstract it to your point, like when new tech comes up and what does it mean and how does it change? Some things change and some things don't change, right? But the fact that we're feeling it as part of our lives and we are slowly integrating it into our lives, whether we want it or not, like algorithms and apps is one, and then obviously how we intentionally use it is another. The other thing that I'm a little bit sick of is that it makes creation so simple that you get a lot of slop. And then sometimes you go on platforms and you see the same thing over and over again. And sometimes there doesn't even seem to be a thinking behind it. And that kind of is what also worries because to your point, everything just looks the same and similar right now.
But wasn't that the same thing people said when YouTube first came out? People said, that's not content. That's not production work. Yeah. You're just recording yourself at home doing whatever not and then uploading it. The first reactions to YouTube and those 15-second content or 30-second or 1-minute content those days was, that's not content.
Or that's too short to be content. Yeah.
Those days, the MGMs of the world, the Warners of the world were like, we are the exclusive holders of creation and content, for example. YouTube is not, but you see how we've evolved until
how the tables have.
So yes, has YouTube made content creation easier? Yeah. Yes. Has it allowed more people to become creators? Yes. Yeah. Has it created slop? Yes, at the same time. Yeah. So in my mind, do we look at AI the same?
You can't detach one from the other. You take everything, you take the good and the bad, right?
Yeah.
The other point is also like, it's being mentioned a lot right now, but what exactly use does it have in personal and professional lives? And it feels like everybody has to say it. Just look at CES that happened 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Every company has talked about AI.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it affects a lot of things. But actual use is a question mark. I always talk about the analogy that I would rather buy Microsoft shares than use Microsoft Copilot. Because the whole notion of AI is increased shareholder value. But actual use of Copilot...
This is not investment advice.
Yeah, this is not financial advice. Yeah. And obviously, it's also like, the things around all the AI form factor tools like Humane and Rabbit AI. Some of them work, some of them haven't. I recently been at a workshop where one of my colleagues bought, it wasn't a Meta glasses, but like one where you can see and then it translates. Yeah. And I mean, it's getting there. It's quite impressive. Yeah.
I'm tempted by some of those actually. Like one of those recording tools that you clip on yourself, you just record everything and then it kind of summarizes and catches. At my age, I'm forgetting things. So it might be useful. So I think we're getting to a point there where it starts to move beyond the chat function to go, okay, how else in your life
extension of your abilities, capabilities. Yeah.
Correct.
The other big narrative is this whole notion that AI will replace jobs. Very big sweeping statement. Sounds kind of true if you think about it in terms of some jobs. But I guess the question is, what does it really mean, right? AI will replace jobs is kind of like a cliche that everybody says, but the sort of actual surface is actually, it doesn't really eliminate work, but it kind of exposes low value, low signal kind of work, right? It could be the case, especially when you look at organizations where a lot of roles are created because of processes and systems, right? They're not uniquely, I wouldn't say useful roles, but I always think about this way. If you are in an organization and the role that you are in requires you to be in an organization for your role to work, then there could be a problem. Like project manager, sometimes you need a project, you need people. You are not really an independent contributor. Doesn't mean that your role is not important, but you need to be in an organization or in a kind of project to be able to add value. So I think that's kind of like sort of where it exposes maybe how traditional work is being done. So I guess in your view, what do you think are the jobs that are most likely to be impacted by AI?
When it comes to work, my big thing would be, what would be the definition of a higher value human input or human task?
Right.
That's the contribution that you were saying actually, right? What is that human value that you bring versus like, I just check this and then pass it along, So therefore, elimination of roles or jobs would be likely in the process kind of space perhaps, right? So how do we define higher value human tasks in an organization? Probably 2 or 3 things. One could be ethics.
The machines have no ethics.
Yeah, ethics, right? The other one would be judgment. Machines can do certain things, but you need somehow contextualizing culture, blah, 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 and all that. So those are the 2 things I could really think of at the moment. There should good things come in 3s, so there should be one more thing, right? So taste, culture, that kind of feeling. Intangibles that you bring to the table.
Yeah, but if I think of it for a creator, I mean, maybe you go direct to the point, right? Like you talk about like AI being able to design now, to be able to make music. We have used tools to do proof of concepts. Obviously, that's different, but then there's this whole big thing about the value of creative work, right? And then also how easy it is now to create a logo, create a brand, create an image, photography, music, right? So does this eliminate those people who are creators? How do they add those values that the machine cannot do?
I think the creation part would be expedited, like faster, accelerated. Ultimately, it's about the human judging, curating, understanding the dimensions of what the outcome will bring to the human being, thinking about the judgment call, right? Because you can create an item, but will that item really resonate? Yep. And will that item be something that has longevity, that has meaning, that has purpose? And I think if you were to think even deeper, like what would be the deepest psychological or emotions that you are going to get to, right? Because if you have some outcome and output, like a product, it will hit a few things. And then like if you want to really make it special, what does it take to get there? So that's how I'm thinking about it.
But like craft becomes commoditized in a way. Yeah. There are ingredients when it comes to creation, making things, but part of it maybe gets commoditized, some of it, the soul of it.
So there's part of it where more people can get access to it, but maybe what you're also going to be able to do is unearth new creators, give access to new creators. It's too soon to tell whether AI will remove jobs or expand our definition of what good is, what slop is, and what mediocre is. Even if you look at the movie industry, you had the Tarantinos who were purists. You had James Cameron who embraced technology. And then you had those B-grade movies who got killer shark, killer octopus, killer rat, and all that shit.
Snakes on the plane.
Just things like that. So even now, there is a grade of different qualities that some people like those B-grade movies, right? So I don't know if necessarily AI will change it, but maybe it will expose more it, and definitely from a volume perspective, I think it will definitely increase it. But the question is, what will be meaningful from a creator, from a creative perspective? How do we create things that are going to be meaningful, that's going to last, rather than like everything's mediocre and
correct, commoditized lah. Just press a button, go 7-Eleven, can buy 20 tracks. Done. So it's, I think just to kind of stretch on that a little bit, right? It's about the human making a conscious decision to create something meaningful. If I'm going to make a bowl out of clay and paint, I'm going to make a bowl out of paint. And then that's the process. That's the learning. And that's the joy or the pain of creating something that no machine can experience, right? So I think it just goes back to the story that you want to learn and tell as part of that creative journey. If I want to make ads and jingles for all the companies in the world, you can go fast food, right? But if you want to, create something that's really deep, and through my experience in life, I failed, I've broken up, I've stumbled, and that's the pain I want to express, and I took that time to write it down. I think it hits home a little bit different. And then the sender receiver will also receive it differently. So that's the way I would kind of think about it.
How about you? I mean, from a corporate standpoint, like jobs being that they are no longer, AI will replace, or maybe the flip of it, actually, what kind of jobs will actually be dramatically enhanced by AI? There's 2 parts to that question.
So the way I am thinking about it is, what value does it replace, right? Versus what functions of job? Because when we think about what jobs you replace, we're thinking of individual jobs are monoliths versus there are parts of the job that have value. Like you say, some parts of our jobs are noise, some parts of our job are true value, true signals, right? That's how I think, that's what AI will expose, right? Which parts of our job are just for the sake of process, it's just it being there, versus truly providing value. I think one of the parts that's most interesting that I'm still thinking about is, how we define our jobs today is productivity, right? The question is, how productive are we? And so the more we do, the more emails we send, the more decks we complete, that's productivity. Okay, I did a good job, therefore I deserve a promotion. Now the challenge with AI is, once I remove some parts of that where I can automate filling out a form, sending out an email, coordinating something, for example, then you go, oh shit, I can't justify my job any longer.
Exactly.
So what is my job? Where does it get? And that's where I go, yes, all things are possible, but what is meaningful?
Yeah.
And like you say, some of that meaning could be, as the person in between, how do I make sure that I'm able to make those judgment calls? I'm able to make decisions, build out insight. And I think that is what's going to be the most meaningful.
Yeah.
To me, the question around how do we justify our jobs and what does doing good in your job mean is where I think we'll slowly start to shift away from just pure productivity, which is what we do today, to what is true output, true value that we bring tomorrow.
So it kind of goes back to the higher value human task. You know, that what is that contribution that you're going to bring to the table? So I thought of one thing that came up. So you spoke about judgment, you spoke about ethics. Yeah. The last one could be critical thinking. That is something that machines can do to a certain point, but are we able to really provide that higher value critical thinking, understanding humans, culture, organizations, the way they work, things are working? I think it's going to expose
100%.
a lot of roles and a lot of competencies of an individual in an organization. It's going to expose. Like suddenly like, oh yeah, everything can be done through this iPad or a laptop and a machine behind it. So what's your value to the organization?
Correct.
So a lot of the work, as I work with some folks also, it's about actually when we look at KPIs or how you measure success and productivity, a lot of it should also come back towards redesigning roles and job scopes for this shift. You cannot just adjust the KPIs, but function doesn't change. That is going to really shake things up, I feel, if we were to kind of put down that future lens.
To your point, a job is defined at the moment based on tasks and things that need to be done. It's packaged up into this is now a job or function of a job. And that's based on past or current requirements, competencies, and tools available. And ultimately, everything is in service of outcomes, not outputs. The problem is that if you are constantly value yourself based on like how many emails you send or what's your productivity, then it becomes a problem because some things will be so much faster, some things will be redundant. Then actually not just exposes your job, but exposes you as an individual. Like if you put so much meaning, my job is doing this and whatever, and suddenly this becomes irrelevant or redundant, then it kind of just, sometimes maybe you feel like your entire identity sort of collapses underneath that redundancy.
I mean, are we ready to be cancelled?
Let's go for it.
One of the things that is a bugbear for me is this whole work from home thing. Not necessarily the efficiency of working from home, but the justification of why somebody can work from home, which is I'm working away and remotely, but I'm still producing work, right? And I'm still doing what I'm going to do, and I'm logged in 9 to 5 p.m. and you give me 5 tasks, I finish 5 tasks. And again, that's very productivity based. And I think that kind of thinking will lead to the risk of losing your value within an organization because once those things become automated or AI can do it in a faster way or someone in the office can produce it much faster, then that justification for doing it at home becomes a lot tougher because you got to go, where else can I lean in? But that's not the spirit of what that becomes, right?
I guess the question is also back to the point where is it outcomes or outputs, right? So if your job, and there's certain type of roles are like you're shifting papers, moving stuff around, you're a cog in the process. Whereas if you, for example, if it's a sales role and you still consistently hit or oversee your targets and you work remotely, it's hard to like judge because those are tangible outcomes. But when your job is tied back to, I've checked off 10 tasks and I've done this, but there's no tangible outcome, then it's hard to justify because some of it will be replaced by AI. And then the other part of the question is then what is your value add, which is what we talked about, the taste, the intentionality, the whole substance behind it. It's stuff that is very hard to prove remotely. And a lot of times what AI can't do are those ideas and conversations that collide in the hallway, in the meeting room, in person. So hopefully we don't get cancelled for this, but I mean, that's an interesting view, right?
And it's not just biased to junior roles, right? It same applies to senior roles as well, because senior roles today that are purely built on coordination or alignment,
like regional roles, you mean?
For example, and downward management, all those will be hot and exposed as well. So I don't think it's necessarily just junior roles, but also senior roles. And again, the value required for senior roles are much, much, much higher, right?
Absolutely.
I think those are going to get exposed.
So what happens to these people who get exposed by AI in their roles? What are their options then? Like we just talked about, the jobs are created based on what's available in terms of technology, process, organizational needs. But then once AI kind of comes in, it doesn't just replace a job. It replaces parts of it. And then some of the tasks get recombined into new roles and new jobs, right? Of which certain people, it's not a simple case of, just upskill this person to AI.
Yeah.
Because that thing that the person is doing may no longer be required to be done to begin with. So that's the $1 million question that everyone's trying to answer, including our government with this AI bilingual. What do these people do? What are the options available?
I don't think the roles will get eliminated immediately.
Yep.
I think that the value will get eroded gradually.
Correct.
I think the best thing to do now is really look at what you're doing and go, how do I get myself in a position where I'm seen to be doing, but also actually doing high value type of work, right? Moving from the noise to a signal. And I think what you said is right. Learning how to extract insight, making decisions rather than deferring decisions, making judgment calls and etc. I think those are the things that people should learn versus, what are the 10 problems that I need to kind of learn? Right? Because the 10 problem ultimately results in the same thing, which is, I'm trying to improve productivity, which again, there's no way you can catch up with.
And then you put a prompt in and say, help me decide what is my best option, and they give you options. Then the critical thinking is gone. 2016 trend, I was looking at my pictures and I drew this diagram on a piece of paper. It says all of us should have these 3 things as a mindset. Number 1, all of us need to be behaviorists. Like we need to understand human behavior. And the second thing was all of us should be technologists, how it integrates with our lives, how they impacts people's behavior. And actually the last one is a bit linked to the higher human value task, which is all of us should think like a business owner. The moment you're thinking like a business owner, you're not thinking about, how do I do processes so that I can create more, so I can pass the buck to somebody else. You're talking about efficiency, you're talking about redesigning and constantly reshaping how your company is working.
Yeah.
So just having that behaviorist, technologist, and business owner kind of mindset will help hopefully get people thinking with the incoming assault of AI. And as a business owner, that's the crux of it, right? If you're thinking like a business owner, you're not building layers, like you're building efficiencies for purpose to achieve the mission. And that's the goal. That kind of mindset about technology, behavior, and having that entrepreneurial business mindset, hopefully will get people thinking, I need to be like this in order to bring a higher value human thinking and proposition to the company I work with.
I think that those are good principles. I mean, it's hard because people are looking for like concrete answers, like what should I learn, what should I do? And it's very hard because what we're telling you is not specific things because things will change, but they are like principles, frameworks, models, like ways to think, right? Rather than what to think. I think we also talked about AI democratizing creativity. So like now everyone's a creator. Tools are available. The question is, should everyone create, right? I think about this from the standpoint of, it's like adulting. When you are a kid, I think of my kids right now, like every time you tell them they have to get permission to eat this, to do that. Then after a while, I remember myself becoming a teenager and then suddenly I have freedom and then everything also I wanted to do. So the question moves from can I to should I, right? And I think the same thing when you have tools, it's not whether you can or not because now you can. The intentionality, the judgment call to your point is should you? And then if you do it, then is it just output of something nice or is it the process of creation, putting your soul into something and all the other aspects of it? It'd be interesting to hear about, like, in terms of how do you feel like the statement of democratizing creativity, that's such a large statement. I can use tools right now at a whim, generate stuff. I just did a 3D figurine of my kids by using their photos and nano banana. It's cute and fun. But after a while, you're like, it's so easy right now. Where does that leave creators? Where does that leave agencies? Where does that leave artists and all that, right?
If you think about it, if you own a camera, are you a photographer? Or if you can use Photoshop, do you call yourself a designer? There are all these tools available. Go back 15, 20 years ago, right? Like these cameras are available. Yeah, I'm a photographer, but your photography is pretty shit. So the question goes back to taste, judgment, and ethics and critical thinking, right? So the tools are available. It goes back to the intent of why you're creating, your purpose of why you're doing something, and the story that you want to tell from a creative perspective. So yes, it will be commoditized. In fact, it probably is already, right? Like with all this technology available for music and arts. Like there's this couple of Instagram things I see on like creating AI art. There will be people who appreciate that art and will purchase or use it. And some people will just find it, it's just not my thing. So I suppose maybe just kind of brainstorming here, like music, for example, as there'd be 1 or 2, 3 genres at the start. And then now you're just creating so many subgenres as we slice culture, as we slice taste, as we slice what people like and enjoy. And the narratives changes as people go through life. As technology changes, that shifts also. Like suddenly, hey, wow, this is AI art is damn cool. And that's my taste.
Because 2025 was obviously a peak was AI before that, but then all these tools and interfaces became so widely available. Do you feel like your creator friends or the community you have, any of them has like now worried or has seen some threat in their work? And
absolutely. It's like, wow, it's so easy to make a song now. Or is it so easy to create something? I think it's just how, at the end of the day, from a commercial standpoint, you still need to build a viable business based on your value and your brand and the credibility to the client. And technology can help you do that.
Then how are they responding to this though? Like, is there anything they're doing in terms of how they explain their value to clients? Do you see that?
One, it could be part of the creative process.
Right.
Whether clients ask them or don't ask them, not many people will ask, hey, you use AI for this? Maybe they do. And the question is, what do you say? So yes, in fact, I do. And this is just part of my process. I use it to start something. I do like 80% or whatever, and then I polish it up. And then I do like the final version, which I know is going to hit the brief.
So they've embraced it as part of their workflow.
Absolutely. I totally believe that should be is done, and that's probably how most of the people are using this as part of their workflows.
Then on the consulting side, it's the same question around.
I can't speak on the
creative side. No, you can see on the creative side as well, but I guess on a different view, right? I mean, not consulting, but just generally, right?
The way I'm thinking about it is what always floats to the top is two things, right? One is quality. People always gravitate towards quality. Yes. And then secondly is trend is always fleeting. Meaning that if some, even in music, right? A new genre comes along, a new artist comes and there's a new sound, people will gravitate towards that. And then we move on from the old to the new. Some things will remain nostalgic and there's always going to be that. But then people always gravitate towards what's quality and what's new and trending. I truly believe, even in the age of AI, as we get more sound, more music, more content, I think those two things will still help people stand out, right? Are you creating quality? And are you thinking differently, producing differently, being original for it? So if we look through crowd history and look at through music genres, how people produce music, how people create movies, that it's always a shifting. It's not going, that's quality, so everybody works with it. There's no such thing, right? It always moves. I think same thing in work as well. So how do you make sure that you're still looking at quality and how do you bring new thinking or originality? I think that's going to be important, right? I think where people should watch out is what does it mean for you? If you are outsourcing as an individual, I think that's more important. If you're a creator, I use that loosely, right? Everybody's a creator in some sense, but you are outsourcing your creativity to something else. You are not practicing muscles on creating or originality or pushing the boundaries, then I think that's where you're not practicing the act of creating, and I think that's where you slowly start to fall behind. So to me, there's two aspects. From an overall always perspective, there will always be something new. Go to YouTube, there's tons of slop there, right? But the things that float to the top are still people engaging. This stand-up comic that's engaging the crowd, those human moments always kind of float up to the top. Right. But I think for the individual is going, okay, how do I make sure that I'm practicing new muscles and I'm not outsourcing thinking?
I'm trying to think of it multiple point of views, right? So one is obviously creators, because that's one thing that visibly you can see has impacted. And then organizations, there are perpetual narratives around AI increasing productivity. So like if you're in professional services, client expects those gains to be applied to the work that they do. And obviously that's also the case right now. Are some of these professional services still relevant because I can get a lot of the same information through AI outputs? Maybe I'll just shift the question to how have you seen AI used to improve productivity in the workplace? Because we talk about AI helping, it could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Emails, record, when we talked about meeting notes,
transcribing things.
Is it significant?
Yes, I think it's significant. If you're not using AI for basic research, if you're not using AI to do any kind of automated processing task, I think you're wasting your time, right? The question is your higher value work worth being paid for? And I generally think, trying not to sound a politician, that even before AI, sometimes when we sell higher quality work, we go through this entire process of manual process, right? We do in-person workshops and then we spend tons of hours on paperwork and all that kind of stuff, and the outcome is still mediocre. So what's the difference between that and using AI and come out with the same mediocre work? I do think that there are clients and audiences that would pay for higher quality work, right? The only question is, do the clients or the audiences trust you to do it? Like when I'm watching a Christopher Nolan movie, I know what quality I'm going to expect. When I watch something on Netflix, I'm okay with this thing. And I generally think it's the same work. Again, you and I come from the ad industry. If I keep selling the client a certain piece of work at a certain price and they go every time it's just the same shit, then why would I trust you to produce more. So if that's the quality I'm getting from you, I'm saying then, okay, fine, just use AI and give me mediocre work.
If you can't move the needle and it's just output based, then
correct.
What's the difference between A and B?
Absolutely. Yeah, right. If I put that ad out there and people still get clicks, then what's the difference?
Yes. Why should I pay you more?
Correct.
What's the value that you unlock from it? Right?
But would people pay for high quality? Absolutely. I think so.
I think the problem now is hard to justify because a lot of these discussions around quality is it's a judgment call. I think the thing is what's the marginal value of the quality versus the price and use of AI, which I think it's hard to justify because how many conversations have I stepped in where they go like, oh, can't I just use AI to do this? Can't I just use AI to do that? And you go like, in principle, yes. But then would you use AI to make certain decisions about your mental health or whatever? I mean, that you can just think about it from those angles, right?
Yeah. But what's the hesitation with using AI?
There's no hesitation in using AI. Everybody wants to use AI. Yeah. There's also expectation that AI, from a shareholder perspective, should unlock gains and therefore either reduce headcount and make things more profitable. Yeah. So there's an expectation that AI unlocks that value. And sometimes that gets perpetuated to actors within the organization that don't really understand how it works, but is being directed to uphold those savings and unlock those value. And so it gets peppered into conversations. It's sometimes used with the wrong outcome in mind. To your point, I think every organization uses it. But then also every organization says, oh, use this, use that. You should be able to do this quicker, but forgets that it's mediocre stuff, like mediocre outputs, right? But there are certain things that don't require, there isn't a significant delta. Like for example, meeting notes. Transcribing a meeting, it doesn't change. There are different use cases. It's also important to understand that not every outcome with AI is the same.
I wonder, part of the question is, there's going to be some kind of efficiency saving.
Yes.
Like, so let's say at work using AI to transcribe and so on and so forth, right? And you're going to get significant savings in time. The question would be, what are you using that time for, right? Like I would go, okay, let's do that faster so that we can all get into a room and really think and go, what's out of the box? How do we have those in-person discussions, for example, and really drive meaningful discussions? I would go, if that is the exchange, then that's a meaningful exchange.
Correct. And therefore, going back to the thinking of how are we redesigning roles, right? That's the starting point, because if we are reworking, we are ranking tasks from low to high value, then a lot of the low value tasks are being done by AI.
Moved around.
Right? So the thinking is around how do you make better decisions? How do you make better judgment? All that requires trust, credibility, experience, understanding humans, culture, so on and so forth, you know.
That's the dichotomy right now with a lot of fresh graduates, right? It's just like you need experience to overcome what AI can do, but you can't get a job and get experience. So there's a sort of a challenge and quandary that they face, which is a different problem altogether. I mean, if you look at this whole notion now that you need to AI-proof your career, if you think about from the standpoint of strengths, what kind of strengths will decay and what kind of strengths will actually shine?
I think strengths meaning like the human, like it goes back to understanding company culture, people dynamics, an experience or an understanding of an organization that AI can do to a certain extent perhaps, but what you get is maybe some data points. Conversations is true, questioning is true, getting people to talk, hopefully unpack a lot more deeper.
If you think about certain things that AI can do from a strength standpoint, it can facilitate sort of better, I guess, synthesis of information or whatever, but you still need somebody to interpret, to connect people together. The
question is actually like, how do they interact in the organization when all these technologies are coming into play?
To me, I do think networking is a skill that will compound, right? Like being able to engage people, having a wider network, knowing people, it requires you to lean in. But I think that's working hard will compound. Curiosity will compound. I think that's a good frame of thinking about. Like, what are the skill sets that will compound is the ones that you need to.
That's interesting because ultimately, the people who can ask the right questions be the ones that 100%. Really gain. Or you need to have a perspective about things, various queries, be able to synthesize the key points for them, connect them together. Most of the time in unexpected ways because the machine can't do it. And then refine the query again. And that's where you kind of get the unlock. That is the challenge of trying to figure out how to ask better questions, frame things clearly.
But you shouldn't think about AI as shortcuts, right? I think that's the road to hell. Go down very dangerous. I mean, the analogy I always use is any professional photographer will be able to produce a better image from AI than me because of the prompts they use, the knowledge they have, the experience they have, the understanding of the framing, the lighting and what they tell. 100%, right? So that experience, the knowledge, the curiosity, the patience to write out that prompt will always pay off better. So I think going into this, people should be curious, should work hard, but they shouldn't think of AI as a shortcut to get things out faster.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like, what should hiring look like in the AI world for corporations?
I don't think it's changed for me. You're looking for someone who's smart, who can think, who's going to be curious about the world, someone who's going to be passionate. So those are criteria when I'm speaking to someone.
How do you gauge smart though?
Are you critical thinking? Do you come in and absorb, or are you there to also to share your ideas and be original and be genuine? I think that's how I would gauge it.
Have a point of view.
Have a point of view.
Be ready to stand, be ready to die on a hill.
That's not smart, but it's a smart
but have a view around something that you're willing to.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I mean, the point of view is so important.
Yeah.
You have to lean in and stand for something. And therefore, that shows your thinking, your judgment, the way you're approaching a question or a job or a role. So that point of view is so important. A lot of times when you ask people, they will give you very standard answers, right? Which is very AI or very generic. Yeah. But when you throw them a question or a problem, how they're approaching the problem without the help of any of these things is very interesting to observe. To me, similarly, like the curiosity, how leaned in you are on having a point of view. Doesn't have to be right or wrong. We can all disagree, but as if you're clear about how you're deriving that point of view, I think that's very important. And it goes with the ethics, the attitude, the will to work hard, all that stuff that is innate in what success. There's no shortcut to success. I still firmly believe in that. That goes back to the quality, and that goes back to the human value that you bring, which is, I feel, very irreplaceable.
Per job today, I get at the very least 100 applications. The question is, when you're applying for a job, how do you stand out from your education and your experience? There's no way I can know your passion. Maybe out from your photo is unique, right? How do I know your passion, your point of view, why you really want to join us? What are you interested in other than a cover letter? In order to stand out, you have to do what others are not doing. Right? And you have to showcase not just your paper degrees, but also your passion, your curiosity.
So the standing out part, I think, is a very key point. As you talked about it, that was in my mind as well. So if you're not going to do the extra, take the extra mile, take the extra leap 10 times more or something, then you're just going to be like everyone else, right? So that effort is going to help you stand out.
When we talk about exercising judgment and taste and curation, a lot of creativity is also like, it's creativity that goes outside of the boundaries of what typical AI can do for you, right? Because I think that's also a space that you find it very hard, because you ask it for creative ideas. AI is really good at connecting logical dots, but a lot of creativity and ideas is connecting illogical dots, right? Just things that are non-adjacent, not correlated, and it's about being able to see patterns. A lot of the experience, some of it is really having a sense of not can I, but should I? In closing, a couple of takeaways that we've had here today. When we talk about AI and work, is that it kind of does expose work that has low signal and low value. We talked a bit about how jobs are a combination of tasks and things that you do. So it's not really about replacing the entire job, but replace some of these parts and tasks. There will be new kind of jobs being formed because the tasks will reallocate and reassemble themselves into other types of roles. And it's going to be kind of hard to say like a magic bullet to say, oh, this is what you should try to learn or do. Things that are a little bit under the hood, where we talk about the ability to think critically, the ability to see patterns, the ability to have taste and make certain decisions that beyond just what a machine can. I mean, you can use AI to take inputs, but ultimately you have to figure out at what order of magnitude are you going to execute around, using a consulting term. I think the question is, how are you adding value in a way that AI cannot, right? And I think those are the questions that will apply very differently in different domains. And I think speaking about technology, AI is just something that happens now. There will be new things that happen going forward. We forget about NFT and metaverse when AI came about. So things will just shift and change, right? So it's about the adaptability, the ability to be able to your point, think critically and ask the question of how does this, rather than seeing this as a threat or seeing this as a fear, how does this force me to change, right? Because ultimately, adaptability is one of the key things. We talk about using AI as tools, maybe as a sort of closing as well. Do you feel AI has impacted you more personally or professionally? AI use in your life, in work or at a personal level?
From an impact perspective, volume-wise, I definitely use it more
for
At
work.
For me too. I mean, we spend so much time at work, 8, 9, 10 hours, for example.
Again, back to value, right? Because ultimately, it's not, we're looking at quality, but quantity. Because I feel like we spend a lot of time at work, so quantity-wise, it's impacted me more just because of usage, but quality as well.
I think so.
Okay.
For me, at least, because I am a verbal thinker,
Right.
or I need to bounce. I struggle to sit down and just think myself. I need to bounce things with somebody. So that has helped me a little bit. But it comes to a point where, okay, enough is enough. Everything sounds the same. I got 2 or 3 key interesting areas to explore, and then I will just do my own thing after that. Right?
Yeah.
So,
I think it also comes to a point where sometimes when you use AI, it's just overwhelm of information also.
Yeah.
So there's like 2 parts of
Too
that,
much.
right? Because now it's so accessible that you can't stop. And I think there's a point where using a sort of framework, like you need to diverge, but after a while you need to converge back to a solution. You can't just keep diverging. For me personally, I think it's a bit of both, but I feel like quantity-wise work, and a lot of it is actually, which is a weakness of mine, which is starting something new at a blank sheet of paper. AI is really good to help that you don't start off new at a blank sheet of paper. By the time you actually put stuff together, because a lot of what we do is synthesis and insight, right? It's about getting the pieces that you need and then helping. And once you have that and you have a direction, then it helps you. Then that's where it accelerates a lot of things. But on a personal, quality-wise, I think on a personal level, it's really a lot of things. Introspection as well. Like sometimes it just helps you see as part of yourself that you don't really see. There's a little bit of do's and don'ts there. But I mean, we talked a bit about, like, use it to analyze my journals, and you find a lot of things that you go like, oh, I never thought about this. And it sort of like unlocks that part of yourself.
Yeah.
Also, if you do like a lot of work, sometimes you can use it to do like retros, not just at work, but in a personal life, right? So I feel like that is quality-wise, it's given me a lot more things to think about, and also helps me be more directional.
That's very deep, man.
Somehow they are mostly on the music arts creative side. They wake up and they just like, the first thing is like journal their thoughts and feelings on ChatGPT.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, interesting. But that's not my being. Like, but they found it very beneficial and useful. Just get them perspectives, which is also part of their process.
I think it depends on personality as well. Like, I think about a lot of things. I think it's just a genetic thing. But I feel like, and part of it is the overthink. When do you overthink? Right? So I remember hearing this from somebody. It's like, don't believe anything that comes into your head until you can write it down. Because our brains are trying to kill us, because it's like back in the wilderness, you're thinking like, is there a lion, whatever. So your brain's like always built for survival. So sometimes you get all these thoughts, and then you put them down, you actually realize it's not.
I think I was reading somewhere, some book, I can't remember if it's the correct term or not, but there's a difference between thinking and actually a thought.
Yeah.
Thinking is just like, it's just like running, right? But actually I have a thought, one thing.
I like that.
It's just a different thing. So people who overthink are constantly thinking, but it just doesn't get anywhere. But you have a thought, write that down.
I like that. Yeah. That's very cool.
But then the sort of the double click to that is, then once you have those, like, whether is it, and it's the same for work, right? Once you do that, then it's applicable to a lot of things, because then now you have data points. And then what AI is really good at doing is synthesizing data points. So personal data points, work data points, and then it sort of reviews. And again, it's how you use it, right? You have to kind of trick it in terms of the questions you want to ask. And then that's where the unlock usually comes.
So have we solved AI today?
I don't think we'll ever solve it, but I think it's a good start to the concerns, and it's a good start to also addressing quite a multi-layered topic. That is on everyone's mind, but at a different level. There's a fear about work. There's a like personal use that we talked about. There is, using it for semi-frivolous purposes. And also, we've also talked about the dangers of it, right? There's a lot of discussion, I mean, even at the work level, on hallucinations, on AI ethics. And like, to the point, right? Can I use it? Yes. Should I use it? Different question. All right.
Very nice.
Thank
you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. It was a lot of good stuff from an AI perspective. We have a couple more sessions and a lot more interesting topics coming your way. So stay tuned for more content, more stories, and more interesting topics coming your way. See you soon. Bye.
Awesome.